Hello aviation fans, Sky here, and today we're gonna meet a special guest. Very interesting plane from the island which many of us don't really consider an aviation country. But maybe we should. Meet the Japanese guy. Mitsubishi X2 Shinshin, experimental testing military aircraft, developed by the Japanese Scientific Center TRDI and the Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Corporation. The first stealth fighter jet created in the land of the rising sun. The history of this aircraft, as well as the whole domestic fighter creation program, began with the Japanese knocking heads with the Americans. The problem was that in the beginning of the 21st century, the Japanese Air Force consisted of F-4, F-15 and F-16 fighters, which are still the backbone of their military aviation. They're good planes, but time does not spare. Those models are getting old. Tokyo needed a new modern fighter, and the American F-22 Raptor seemed an ideal option. But it has a problem. Export of these jets is forbidden in the US. No exceptions, not even for the closest allies. The Yankees proposed the F-35 Lightning II, modern and universal jets. But that universal performance is not particularly necessary. There are no ground targets. Japanese don't need to attack or bomb anybody. They've done enough of that during the World War II. But the Japan Self-Defense Forces may have to protect the sky from fighters, particularly from their neighbors. In this case, universality is going to be harmful to the air superiority performance of the aircraft. F-35s were purchased, but Tokyo still needed more efficient fighter, and they decided to create their own. The Technical Research and Development Institute, TRDI, has created several large-scale models to determine the optimal layout for the aircraft. In 2007, Ministry of Defense officially launched a research program for a new fighter. It received the designation ATDX, Advanced Technology Demonstrator X, or X2. The aircraft had to be developed in the Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, already experienced in aircraft manufacturing. For example, the original MRJ airliner is their product. The X2 prototype made its maiden flight in April 22, 2016, on Nagoya Airfield. Generally, the aircraft is well known in Japan as Shinshin, or Spirit, although officially the Ministry of Defense of the country does not recognize this name. All the necessary technologies and solutions are planned to be ready by 2018. And at that time, based on them, the development of fully functioning F-3 fighter will be started. It is assumed that F-3 will be launched into service in the late 20s. It will be the 5th generation fighter with some 6th generation features. So what is the X2? Structurally, the aircraft is quite classic for modern 5th generation fighters. It looks similar to the Lockheed F-22 Raptor. Dimensions of X2 are close to the Swedish Saab JAS-39 Gripen fighter. The aircraft is about 14 meters long and has a 9 meter wide wing. At the same time, the Japanese media reports that X2's weight is nearly 13 tons. The aircraft power plant, 2 turbojet engines equipped with 3D thrust vectoring systems. The thrust vector control is created by blades attached to the nozzles of the engines and gaining pressure on the jet stream, something like Rockwell X-31 demonstration systems. Japanese engines IHI XF5 are creating a total maximum of 49 kilonewtons of thrust. That makes it one of the strongest power plants, taking into account the small mass of the aircraft. Chiefly this of course allows X2 to have a supersonic cruise speed. But the most interesting is inside. The X2 is one of the first aircrafts with experimental optic remote control system, fly-by-optics. Most of the cables of this system are replaced with optical fiber, which allows to significantly increase the amount of transmitted information and protect the system from electromagnetic interference. In addition to the passive stealth technology, Mitsubishi develops the multifunction RF sensor. In fact, the whole airframe is covered in microantennas that can analyze the signal of the locators and create a counteracting and suppressing signal. The active stealth technology will allow the aircraft to be invisible in a much wider magnetic spectrum in comparison with the modern 5th generation aircrafts. Another interesting feature, one of the biggest innovations of this plane, is a complex of self-repairing flight control capability. The entire plane is filled with a huge number of sensors and analyzers, which are monitoring the status of all fighter systems. In case of failure or physical damage, the onboard computer rebuilds the system. The functions of the lost element are transferred to the other elements. It is assumed that this complex will increase the survivability of future fighters. Finally, the most important question that can be asked about the Japanese fighter. And no, unfortunately Mitsubishi X2 does not transform into a giant robot. Of course, everything I said earlier is very general information. Project X2 is secret and we probably don't even know 80% of the information about this plane. According to the plans of the Japanese Defense Ministry, we will see the actual F-3 fighter only by the end of 2027. However, the plane promises to be very interesting, so let's wait. That's all for today. Be sure to subscribe and comment below what you think about this unusual machine. Fast flights and soft landings to you.